Hello everyone. Today we're trying a different type of video. Last video I did was just, mounting a zebra and showing the whole process and talking throughout the whole thing. Still trying to learn my, drift in this YouTube thing and doing taxidermy at the same time. I like to change it up and, try my own thing, talk about different topics, like, maybe some that are a little bit personal, but I feel like should be talked about sometimes. Um, One thing that's really been on my mind a lot lately is, you know, a lot of us strive to be parents one day, or at least, that's what I hope so. We all want to be a father or a mother to a child. Everyone wants to have a kid someday in their life, but the one thing people don't plan for is when you actually lose your kid or miscarriage. Um, it happened to me personally, and I know it's different for women. You know, no one takes it harder than women do because they actually go through the mental and physical things more than a guy does. But it does affect, a guy as well. You know, having that emptiness in you and going from being excited about having a kid and hoping and praying for it to be a healthy child and then it just going away someday. It's different when it actually happens to you because you don't think it'll happen to you until it does. Um, so that's what we're going to talk about today, and we're also going to be working on a javelina as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and get glue all over this guy. I'm gonna put in these eyes first. But as I was saying, probably about a year ago, well, a little bit less than a year actually, I was trying to have a kid with my fiance. It was something that I wanted to do, and I was hoping that I could actually accomplish and do to try to become a better man. I wanted something harder to work for, and I wanted to bring a life into this world. So she ended up getting pregnant one day, and then we went to the doctor, did all the tests and everything, and then we were told that it was going to be a healthy baby. And then the day before we were going to break the news to my parents and my fiance's parents, we went to the doctor to get an ultrasound, and then they couldn't find the heartbeat. And what you feel in that moment when you hear the doctors tell you that they can't find a heartbeat is probably the worst feeling I felt so far. And then what hurts more is seeing your loved one go through the pain of having a baby that's not even alive. So we hoped and prayed for everything to go well, that maybe some miracle would happen. And I tried my best to not curse God and blame Him for everything. And I tried not to blame myself either because what I was going through was that I felt bad for putting my fiance through that because I gave her a kid. But I had to try and tell myself that it's not anybody's fault. that things happen for a reason. But that still goes through in my mind, wondering if there's something that I did wrong or something that I could have done better. But it's a process to get through dealing with something like that. And you got to really learn to be there for your loved one, because it's not just you who's going through it, it's your significant other as well, especially since they were carrying this child in their body this whole time, and it just being, you know, it just going away someday. But that's just the beginning of everything that happens and everything that you'll feel and go through. It tends to just get worse. You you start to feel a change in your mind, and you start to, walk around your days differently, thinking about the child you lost, and you you tend to just, it's not a jealousy thing, I would say. It's something that's you can't control. The feeling that you get, you get really sad when other people around you have kids that are healthy, which, it was an amazing thing. And, you know, deep down you feel happy for everybody. But you feel really bad because you don't want to go and be there, because you're afraid that your inner emotions of what you went through will come up and ruin things. Because you want to be happy for people in the inside. You really do. But there's a part of you that's just making you feel really depressed about what you just went through, and you think to yourself, why can't I have that? But it's a hard thing to understand, that life does things for a reason. And one thing that's hard for you to do while going through something like this is going to birthday parties or baby showers, because you feel really, you feel sad. You feel very sad, and you want to be there for the people. You want to show your support as much as you can. You tend to say these things, but when it comes to the moment, it's hard. It's very hard. It's not easy to be happy when something like that just happened to you. And it's very sad that, miscarriage is such a common thing in this world. It happens a lot more than you think, and it's not talked about as much. And it's different for both, for a woman and a guy to go through it. The guy has to just deal with the loss of the kid, and the female has to go through the loss of the kid as well, plus the feeling in your, your body, which I don't speak for all female women out there. Everyone's different, but I'm just going based on what I witnessed myself. But it's a hard topic for men to open up about. And a lot of the times no one really asks how you're doing or how everything's going. How are you handling it? No one brings it up because they're afraid to make you cry or, you know, for everything that's bottled up to just come out. But sometimes talking to someone who's been through it might make their day a little bit better and might help them what they're going through. Because a lot of the time people want to talk about it. There's a lot of people that deal with things differently. Some people deal with it in the inside, and some people just, want to be asked how everything's going every now and then. It really shows support and makes you feel less down throughout the day. Like even I still, like every day I think about, what's happened and what we're dealing with, and it's it's hard to learn to be there for your loved one during everything, because it's not something you could fix. Nothing could fix the feelings and emotions they go through, and it's hard to figure out how to be there for them and help cope with what's going on, because it's not a lot of times we guys tend to want to fix every problem that is presented in front of us, but there's a lot of things that we can't fix, and that's one thing about miscarriage. It's not something you could fix. You have to learn to be patient with them and comfort them as much as you can. The best thing to do. You don't want to let your partner go through it alone. But it took me a while to understand why everything happened. Instead of just thinking about what went wrong or what could have went wrong, I try to think about it, in the way that maybe heaven wanted our baby more than it belonged here, or maybe there's a good reason why the baby wasn't born. I always try to think about it like that. It helps a little bit more than just blaming myself for what happened. It might not make a lot of sense to everybody, but we all got to try to deal with things in our own ways and whatever makes sense in our minds. Alrighty, so I just finished doing the eyes on here. So the next thing I'm gonna do is put glue all over him. I'm gonna put some, since the cape is kind of like, it's not cut down the back, since I kind of stitched it to make it easier, it's just gonna slide over just like that. But you also want to be careful with the eyes on him. You don't want to slide it over too hard and then mess it all up. And I also put clay in the ears already, since it's going to be hard to pack it, from back here. So yeah, I'm gonna get glue all over him real quick, and then we'll come back. Alrighty, so got glue all over his face and body, a little bit around the eyes. So now we're gonna throw this little cape. It's a little guy, you can see that, and we're gonna put it on there and try not to mess up the eyes. So the eyes stayed in place pretty good so far. I want to try to rough place everything as best as you can. get those ears in place so they don't plop everywhere. These guys are pretty interesting amounts. A little small mannequin, not too hard to mount for a beginner. Gonna get these eyes cleaned up. And another thing that's, hard to deal with is your when your baby's due date is coming up. Um, I know mine's coming up here next month when the baby was supposed to be born. And that day is probably one of the hardest of, the other days that you could have when you're dealing with a miscarriage. It feels like you definitely have a feeling that something's missing, if that makes sense. And it's hard to try not to rush back into, trying again. The part of you really wants to, but then there's another part of you that's like, well, this happened for a reason. Maybe it's just not the right time, which is what I'm going with right now. And trying my best to not think that every time we try, it's going to end in the same thing over and over again. Because once it happens once, you're consistently just going to be afraid of it happening again and again. And especially for your partner, that feeling is there. I remember the drive back from the doctor's appointment after they told us that our baby is our baby's heart stopped beating. We really didn't want to believe it. We even went to another hospital to check, just to give us a second chance to see if, by any chance they were wrong. And it's hard to it was just hard to believe that it happened. And then they told us that the other doctors is right. Just transitioning from being happy about something that's about to come into your life to being to it just going away real quick. Just in just for all that to happen in a couple hours was a lot. And I held it in for the most part of the day until I got home, where I felt comfortable. And then that's when it all just comes out. All the emotions, all the feelings about what just happened. And it still happens. And that's okay. It's okay to feel your feelings when you need to. You know, it's that's why it's always important to have a partner that's always gonna be there, you know, during your worst and best moments. And I'm blessed to have that. And there was a lot of people that showed their support, definitely. That I will not lie about. But after everything happens, you know, months fly by, it tends to people tend to forget about it. But the only person that doesn't forget about it is you and your spouse. That stays there. And it always will. Something that's never gonna go away. Okay, so I got the eyes kind of roughly in place right now. I'm gonna go ahead and take a minute and get him stapled off in the back, and then we'll come back right after that. Alrighty, so I stapled off the back already, cut off the excess skin, went ahead and put some glue around where I'm gonna put the lips in place. So that's what we're gonna do right now. Go ahead and put this skin back up. Try not to make a mess, obviously. You can always spray it with water afterwards. This glue is a water-based glue, so it washes away pretty decently. I know this video is a little bit different than the other one. Just wanted to get more, you know, deep down to the core. Try to do something different. Not just be a, I don't want to just be like a, oh, I'm going to show you how to do this type of channel. I want to try to get, you know, personal and, you know, let y'all know my character. But I really just felt like talking about, you know, people going through miscarriages today. something that's just been in my mind for a while. No, it's probably not what y'all would expect me to talk about, but just trying to do something different. But for anybody else that's out there that has gone through a miscarriage and or is going through one at the moment, just know that you'll always be seen as a parent no matter what. Parent to a baby that is an angel now is what I see it as. And one day, you know, it will happen. Not when you think it'll happen, but when God or the universe decides it's time. Being patient's the hardest part, definitely. But you learn that along the way. You will. But always be there for your loved one. Because it's not just you going through it, it's them as well. They're going to need everything, every support, every amount of support that you could give them. Even though it's hard to be there for yourself during the moment, try to be there for them too. And for people that have friends that have gone through a miscarriage, um, always try to, you know, do your best to be there for them too. You never know what they're feeling someday. Try to understand, that that things may be feeling different for them. And it's not that they dislike you or they're jealous of you or anything like that. It's a feeling that not anyone could explain. Most of the time, they just want you to be there for them. I love all my friends that I have and couldn't wish for any other friends, honestly. And I appreciate them for doing what they can to be there. All right, so I got the mouth in place. Most of the work in here is going to be epoxy and airbrushing to make it all blend together. So I'm going to flip them back up. I always want to keep this hair right here spiked up because in the wild they tend to spike up sometimes when they're startled. They're a pretty interesting animal. Some people think they're more related to a pig, but they're really not. Um, they're more related to other species that I can't remember at the moment. But let me show y'all something. So this is a skull of a javelina. As you see, their bottom jaws always go in front of their top fangs, and they tend to rub together a lot. As you can see, where it's kind of worn down about right there, and a lot of the times they click their teeth together, kind of like that, and it makes like a sound. And usually they do that to ward off other animals or other javelinas in the area. But it's a pretty interesting, you know, skull to have. Probably personally one of my favorites besides a hog. But yeah, you want to fluff up all the hair, make sure your ears are good. Check the eyes, and throw the crease in there. Not gonna be a very big crease, kind of small one. So yeah, that is probably the funnest mount I've done. Javelinas are pretty cool animals, pretty small, interesting ones. Oh yeah, make sure you put that nose in place. Don't want to forget that. So yeah, there's a javelina mount right there. It's gonna dry up over the next couple days to a week. You always want to check those hairs, make sure that they're in a good spot. Spike these up every now and then. Yeah, that is a javelina mount. So that's a javelina mount that's finished right there. As you see, it came out pretty decent. Pretty happy with how it turned out. Fun little mount to do there. Um, but I'd like to thank y'all for checking out this video and listening to me and watching me do this while I talk about certain topics, deep topics. Um, and for my last words, for people that go through miscarriages and are dealing with one at the moment, um, it'll be okay. Your time will come. There's always a reason for things to happen. Um, and if you're friends with somebody that's gone through, something like that, try to be there for them and try to understand that it may not be easy for them to handle certain things or be around certain things. But I do love the people that were there and supported me and my fiance through everything. I'm blessed to be able to have that. But it's not easy. Try to take it as like a try to take this video as like a perspective of someone that has gone through something like that. Um, but yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Um, I know it's a little bit different, but I'm just trying different things to like I say, find my drift in this YouTube thing. But hopefully I could find more things to talk about. I'm sure I will. But yeah, thank y'all for watching, and I'll have a blessed day.